Knows Best.
Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Monday. I am so excited to be sitting here, and I have crazy news for you guys, which has nothing to do with me personally, but I've been dying to share, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to, but okay, let's rewind. I called LaDonna last week, okay, Friday morning when I was going on my walk. Yes, Friday morning. And we were chatting and everything was good. We talked for like 2 hours, like an hour and 50 minutes. As we typically do once a week, we just catch up. We talk about the books that we're reading and so on. Well, Saturday morning, I'm up, right? And May woke me up at like 5 a.m. Carter was sleeping in because it was like a very long week and he worked all weekend as well. However, not the point. I'm on the couch, right? And it's like 7, maybe a little bit before, maybe like 6:30. And LaDonna is calling me. And I'm like, oh God, what's wrong? Who's dead? What happened? Right? Because not only did we talk yesterday, like literally for an hour and 50 minutes, it's just, she never calls me. I'm always the one who calls her. So I'm just like, preparing. And so I answer the phone and I'm like, hi, Grams, like, what's going on? And she's like, hi, did I wake you? And I'm like, no, like, is everything okay? What happened? And she's like, no, everything's good. I just had to call you because I couldn't hold it in anymore. And I have a surprise for you. And I'm like, wait, what? Because like LaDonna and Gordy, number one, she never calls me. Number two, like nothing in their life has changed in forever. So my first thought, right? She's like, okay, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to send you a photo. And I'm like, oh my God, immediately puppy. Okay. Because LaDonna and Gordy have always had dogs until I was in college. They lost both of their little pups, like right at the same time, very short within each other, like this little Chihuahua and then the Chihuahua Yorkie Terrier, Savannah and Zoe, who lived like very full lives, but that was like 7 years ago now, probably, maybe a little bit less, maybe 6, but they didn't want to get a dog after that because you know how old people are. It's like, we're going to die. So then what the frick happens, which is really sad because I think they really could use one, like just especially in their old age, but I totally understand where they're at. So they haven't had dogs in the last like 6 years, but they've always been dog people. So immediately I'm like, oh my God, puppy. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And she goes, it's not a puppy. And I literally didn't speak out loud. I'm like, okay, got it. So then I'm thinking, and I have knowledge from when I visited them in July, visited them. I don't think I really sounded that word out. I was like, okay, no fucking way. So I'm waiting, right? And of course, she doesn't know how to work her phone. She's like, oh, I'm trying. And I'm like, Grandma, just tell me what the fuck is going on. Because like, what is so important that you called me? Number two, like nothing has ever happened in their lives. And I know immediately, but I'm like so shook. I get the picture, right? And it's a picture of a Zillow listing, a house. You guys, LaDonna and Gordy bought a house, are buying a house. They're moving. And this is like, okay, you're probably like, okay, bitch, what? They bought their current house in 1988. My dad graduated high school in 1988. So that was a long fucking time ago. Well, it was 36 years ago. They also bought that house for $44,000. 44000 $44,000. You can't even find a house today under $300,000. Oh my gosh, you guys. So let me rewind. I went home in July and it's so funny. So we sit in their driveway. I already explained this before. And like if Gordy needs something, LaDonna runs in the house, but like I'm sitting there with Gordy or vice versa. Then I'll run in the house. Me and LaDonna are there and Gordy's still outside. So I spend a lot of time with them, but there are these little moments when I'm with one of them individually. And what had been happening was, I think Gordy mentioned it first. We were sitting in the driveway and he's like, so earlier this year, he's like, before I broke my hip, obviously, I inquired with a builder about these things called patio homes. And I might have explained this to you guys, but basically they're just one level homes attached to garage. Okay. And he's like, our house, their current house that they've had since 1988, no matter what, it has 4 steps to get into just the house, right? There's no entrance into the house that doesn't require steps. However, also in the house, there is a basement and the washer and dryer's in the basement. So it's also then they have to use the stairs no matter what. And as old people, like that's not ideal. They also have a detached garage. So like in North Dakota in the middle of the fucking winter, they have to go outside, like when they go to their car or what have you. So like so many things that as they're getting older, not ideal. So Gordy was thinking ahead, which I love because my entire family, like nobody changes anything. I don't know if it's a Midwest thing. I don't know if it's like a middle class thing. Like, you know how people like move? Like I've had friends in the past and like their parents would move and just like buy a new house. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like everybody in my family like has lived in the same fucking house that they started with. Like my dad, you know, he bought my house with my mom, I'm sure back in 1993. Same house, right? He now lives with his girlfriend, but like he still owns that house. We lived there my whole life. Like people in my family don't change. They don't buy houses. They just like do the same thing their entire life until they die. Just in general, the same job, the same house. Okay. So this is like crazy. And also you guys, my grandparents' house, like of course they bought it in 1988. It's an old home. So like Gordy made renovations over the years, but like the bathroom, the reason he fell and broke his hip is because he got caught on something. Like everything's so narrow. The kitchen and the living room are separate. There's walls everywhere. You know how the modern houses, how modern things are just like open concept. Like in our apartment, you know, the kitchen, you can see the living room. Well, back in the day, that was never the thing. So it's just so compact, so small. So when our whole family is around, like everybody's like squished. It's just like, it's not ideal. However, it's a great home. Like it's a wonderful little home, but as they're old, again, for all of these reasons. Anyways, Gordy telling me this in July. He's like, I inquired, but then I brought it up to LaDonna and she's scared of the change and she has a lot of shit in this house. I mean, he didn't say that probably, but in nicer terms. And which I understand. She has books, she has crafts, she has just shit they've accumulated since 1988. You know, another thing that we don't think about with houses, like, for example, okay, I'm just going to keep jumping back and forth. Like I kind of ruined the fucking surprise anyways. However, the new house, like the TV will be mounted right above a fireplace and there's no like, people don't use TV consoles anymore or consoles. You know what I mean? Of course, some people do, but like, yeah, modern day and age, like things are mounted. Like we don't have just like tons of armoires. Is that how you pronounce it? Armoires. I don't know. You get the word that I'm trying to say. And like, yeah, the media councils and LaDonna has this. Oh, she's super attached. She cried to me on the phone the other day about this. Like those things that just like, it's almost just like a little sort of, not little, it's big. Oh my God, bitch. Spit it out. I don't even know how to like compare it to something where it has doors and like just little shelves that you set shit on. Like just like for decorations, like not a real thing. LaDonna, she calls it something like not a cassette, but it's like, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. It's just this really tall, like to the ceiling, tiny little thing that has little doors and she just has photos and then she has the dogs that were cremated and then a photo of her mom, like all of her special things just like sitting in the living room. And it's just like modern day houses with these open concepts, like everything's kind of like cut and dry. Like you don't have a lot of shit everywhere, you know, which I love, but LaDonna's kind of a hoarder. So she's kind of having like a just issue with like having to really get rid of a lot of shit, like the TV console. Gone, you know, it holds like the DVDs and like all of the stuff that it holds as well. So anyways, Gordy tells me this in July. He's like, she's not loving it. Like she's scared, yada, yada, whatever. Well, then he breaks his hip, obviously. But at the same time in July, I would like run into the house and then LaDonna brought it up on a separate matter. They hadn't both brought it to my attention, but individually they're kind of like talking shit. So like I go into the house like the next day and LaDonna's like, yeah, Gordy, I don't know if he told you or I told you, but like he inquired about these houses and I just don't want to move, even though I know, you know, they both know deep down it'd be good for them. One floor, right? Like the attached garage, whatever. I think it's a great thing, but I understand where they are in their age moving. Like they haven't bought a house, like dealing with the housing market and like the rental or not rental, but like real estate market. I get it. It's overwhelming, especially, you know, Gordy turns 80 this year. He turns 80 in 2 months. So anywho, LaDonna sends me a photo of this house. Not only is it gorgeous, but I'm like, oh my God. So the day before, that Friday, when we talked in the morning, they went later to the bank to put down $5,000, almost like, you know, like incentive, like we really want this. It wasn't a down payment. It's just like to get them into escrow, I think. But it's a brand new build. So it's like a new little housing development in Bismarck where they're popping these things up. And so nobody's lived in them. They're brand new. And so that means there's no like closing costs. They don't need to wait for anybody to move out. So I think it'll be a quick process. And I think this house has been on the market for like 100 days, she said. So she isn't for sure. And I think there's still now some paperwork happening. This was now a week ago, but I cannot believe it. I like almost cried. I was just so happy. Like, I think it'll be so good for them. It's a 3-stall garage. Currently, they have a 1-stall detached, right? It's a 3-stall. She was like, oh my gosh, Brenna, it has like finished walls. Like their current garage that they've had for forever, obviously, doesn't have finished walls. Like it's just... My family is very simple and they're very like old, and like my family doesn't like renovate. Like they're, you know, they have the same cabinets and the same like cream colored fridge and like stove, just like really old. And they're just like under the same, you know, assumption, like if it's not broke, like they don't need a new one. Like that's just how everybody in my family operates. And also, you know, like LaDonna and Gordy, I think, have a little bit more money. Obviously, they're 80 years old. Like, I would hope they had invested a little bit. They have more money than most people in my family because Gordy was like a business owner. He had an A&G Auto Mart. He had an auto body shop. And when I was there in July, I was like, Grandpa, like, don't take this the wrong way, but like, do you guys have the funds to buy a new house? Like, houses are just number one expensive these days. I don't know, like, obviously what anybody in my family's financials really look like. And he was like, oh yeah, you know, like he owned the building that he worked out of. Like A&G Auto Mart was obviously at a huge, like, sort of shop situation. And he said that, sorry, I'm like stuttering over my words because I'm like trying to talk so fast. He said that him and his partner sold that a few years back for like a good chunk of money. And so, yeah. And I'm sure, you know, he obviously got money maybe for being in the military. I have no fucking clue. But he was like, nope, it's no worries. And then when I talked to LaDonna, that house is just going to get passed down to their sons. You know, Gordy has my dad and my uncle, and then LaDonna has 2 sons. She originally had 3. She has 2 now. So it's kind of like an investment to them, and then it'll just get passed down into the family. And I think it's going to be so great. With that being said, though, I'm going to have to fly up there and help them. Like, I want to be there so bad. And I had a moment last week. Oh my God, I could like cry right now. It's like nothing has changed, but there was like this moment that I get sad that I'm not there. And I never feel that way because I'm so glad I moved out of Bismarck, and moving to Dallas was like the best and most life-changing thing in my life. And it just had so many opportunities. And I met Carter, obviously. And I hate fucking Bismarck, don't get me wrong, but like my grandparents, like I just so badly wish I could be there. Like LaDonna called me and she was like, I just had to tell my best friend. She's like, but you can't tell anybody. Like she was like, I need to sit down like all the kids and just kind of explain. And we don't even know if we got it for sure. But she was like, I just had to tell my best friend, which is me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just love them. And like Gordy on the phone was just like, they're so excited. And I know it's going to be a process and it's going to be stressful. And like LaDonna was crying the other day, thinking about all the stuff she has to get rid of, you know, which I get it, like nostalgia, she's attached. Some of the things, all of the things I think that she has were from her parents, and like her mom died and she was so close to her mom. Like they literally have never gotten like new furniture, new anything. So I totally understand 36 years in this house and the memories, but it's such an overall good thing for them just to have the one floor, easier to get around, the open concept, like when the family's there. So yeah, I'm so excited. So I'm definitely going to be flying home soon. I don't know how quickly it'll happen. Like they don't have it yet, but once they do finish all the paperwork, like nobody lives there. So I think they can start moving in, and then they'll have to sell their old house. So just like in any way that I can help. And I told them that. I was like, I'm coming. And LaDonna was like, oh my God, Brenna, then we're paying for your flights. And they've never done that. They've never like given me any money other than like for birthdays, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, like that's crazy. No. Like I'm just coming. I'm so excited. I want to be there. I want to see the house. And when I was there in July, I told you guys this, they drove me through that neighborhood. Like my grandpa really wanted it. And I think he was still trying to convince LaDonna. And anyways, I'm so excited for them. So that's huge news because nothing like that ever happens in my family. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that. Speaking of grandparents, my grandma Freund, my mom's mother, had her 90th birthday party this weekend. And nobody knows if she's 90 or 91. Nobody seems to ask. Nobody seems to care. However, my cousin Lauren FaceTimed me. That way I could say hi. And like my entire family was there. And thank God it was like 9 p.m. So I only saw my cousin, my mom, and my grandma in the FaceTime and just like said hello, said happy birthday. But my grandma was like so happy. I think any old person's like dream is just to have like their entire family together. And so she had a great day, and that's all that matters, because my mom called me yesterday and she's like, bitch, I fucking hated that. My mom hates going up there. She has 10 siblings, you guys, and no offense, they're all a little nutty. And I get it. Like if I were her, yeah, I would not want to go up. I don't like to see all of those people when I go up there. I'm like, I come to see my grandma and my cousin and my cousin's mom. Like those are the people I'm like tightest with. The other people, like I just like don't really know at this point in time anymore. And once my grandma passes, like I just probably won't see those people ever again. No offense. Like we just all have our own lives. But my mom like really hates going up there. So she called me yesterday to bitch about it. But I was like, how was grandma? And was grandma happy? And she was like, of course. Like grandma was so thrilled and she saw everybody and yada yada. So it's like 100, it's over 100 people. Think about that. 11 children, now their kids, and then their kids. And then now my grandma has like great grandchildren. Like it's a lot of fucking people. That I don't want. I do not want that. And I think Carter, if he had it his way, like he would want this like big old family. No. No, not me. Love you. Like at most he's popping out 3 kids out of me. That's it. That's my cap. And I've even been pushed to 3. I only wanted 2. However, we'll see what ends up. That is all though for the update. Sorry, I'm all over the place. Now let's chat about, you guys, eating habits. And if you don't pay attention to my Instagram story, you're going to be like, bitch, what are you even talking about? Last week. Okay, so what happened is I got a pack of the Deloney news, and I get this pack from Costco, and there's only one option, and it has 3 flavors. Cherry slush, the best fucking flavor. It has peach mango, I think just peach, good flavor, and cosmic fucking stardust, which I do not like. I don't hate it. Like I obviously like it enough to still drink it. Like I'm not repulsed by it. It's just weird to me. It's just not my favorite. So I was drinking these in the order of least to best favorite. Least favorite to best. I was going to say worst to best. Okay. That way I'm set up for success. Like I'm topped off with the cherry. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to drink the fucking cherry first and then I get the peach and then I'm like, oh, now I have to drink the cosmic stardust. It's like a psychological thing, right? So as I was drinking one of the cosmic stardust, I had posted on my story a long time ago that I just like don't really like that flavor. So I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if anybody else has eating habits like this. And I know for sure, obviously people do. So I posted on my story and I asked people, what are your eating habits? Because mine, it also translates to food, and it more commonly has to do with food. If I have a plate of food, right, I've got 3 different things. Did I already talk to you guys about this last week? Wait, I think I did. Oh my fucking God. Okay, well, let's just talk about now the answers that I got to that clip. Right? Because I don't think I talked about the answers, and I want to go over them because there are some weird ones. And I wanted to tell you guys the story about how I was drinking these. And then actually Alani New reached out to me on TikTok and they were like, Brennan, we would love to send you our Witch's Brew flavor, which is like a caramel apple. I now am drinking those because it's like one of my like lower, not faves. Cherry slush is still the top. I think peach is still there. I do like it. Like it's a good flavor. I've been drinking it every morning. However, still not like my fave. Well, Cutie Carter, okay, has been grabbing the Alani News, which he drinks them because at his parents' house in California, they drink Alani News. You guys know they're Mormon. They don't believe in coffee, but they drink like pop and energy drinks. Make it make sense. However, it doesn't, but they drink them. So like we drink them there. And that's, I think, how I was first introduced to Alani News. So he'll drink them, but he's been trying to like not drink as many energy drinks. I don't really know, whatever. I don't really monitor his habits. Well, one morning, okay, this was Monday because we didn't go to the gym. I see him grab a cherry slush. I'm like, yes, babe, like grab that cherry slush. Like, I'm so happy that you're drinking one. Like, amazing. I'm just loving that he's, drinking them, I guess. I don't know why I'm so happy about it. However, the next day, I see him walk to the fridge and he grabs another cherry slush. And originally, you guys, I had only had that one pack. I hadn't gotten the Deloney new package yet. Okay. So I'm like, babe, really? Like the cherry slush? Like you guys know, I've talked about this before. I have sharing issues. Like some things like what's mine is mine. And I need to get better at that because it's not true. What's mine is ours. But like certain things, I'm like, you bitch. You bitch. So I see him grab it and I'm like, babe, like, and he knows how I am. He knows that I drink my least favorite to my favorite. So I say it. I'm like, babe, you know that I drink least favorite to favorite. And he goes, yeah, I do know that. That's why I drink best to worst. I'm like, I am going to kill you because we have the same, like, if it were something where we didn't agree, like if he loved the Cosmic Stardust and then the peach, then we'd be in business because we'd be top. I would let him have those. I would drink, but it's not the case. He also likes the cherry slush. So he's just grabbing them and he has no regard for me. And this is honestly such a thing for men and women. Like I notice myself even when we're eating something, I don't know, let's say we're sharing fries. Like I'm grabbing the worst ones because I want him to have the best ones. And I do this not even just with Carter, with other people. Like I'm just not a picky particular person. So I know if there's a scenario where it's not going to bother me, like it's not something that is super like bad, I'm gonna like pick the worst one so other people have the better option. You know, like for example, with the nanny family, like they like a particular kind of silverware, for example. Like yeah, I understand what they were saying. They have like two different kinds and one is definitely like better to hold. But let's say we're down to the last three. There's two good ones and one bad. Like I'm going to give myself the worst one. Like I just don't care that much, you know, when they have a preference, which if I gave them the worst one, like nobody's going to really say anything. But I know that if they had their choice in it, they would pick the certain one. So I just give them like, that is something I do just with like a lot of things. And I think it's just like a woman thing. Like we just are, I don't know, selfless. Like in most scenarios, like we would just rather put the burden on us. And those are like not real burdens, but you know what I'm saying? So like that's a crazy thing because I would never do that to Carter. Like if I knew something is his favorite, like I would leave that for him, but he just like plucks it out. Like, yeah. But at that point, you guys, I had gotten the cherry case from Deloney, so it was okay, but I'm hiding them. So I'm letting him, he can drink the others. Well, actually I re-upped his goat fuels because that's his preferred kind of energy drink. Okay. I don't know why I can't freaking talk. However, I got him those. So now I just like left myself to the bad ones and the good ones, but I'm hiding the cherry so he can't touch any more of those because I haven't got one. So that day when like we were dying, you guys, he was about to go to work. It's like 6:30 a.m. We're like cracking up on the couch because obviously I like hit him, I think, probably playfully. I was like, ah, you jerk. And that was that. But then I was like, oh, can I just have like a sip? I just like want to taste the cherry. So then he gave me a sip. I was like, ah, okay, I feel good. Okay. Anywho, now that my stories are over, back to what you guys said. So these are other people's eating habits that responded to my Instagram story. Oh, okay. The most common thing that I got back to that, and I'm dead. I'm absolutely dead because this is like two different kinds of people. I said I eat least to favorite, right? And then like, I don't know why I keep saying that incorrectly, but just like, let me live. You know what I'm trying to say. Some people, a lot of people commented back and they said, but Brenna, what if you don't finish your food? What if you get full? I am so sorry. You must have me fucking confused. I am a bitch who has never left a plate with food on it. I finish every plate. Yeah, I do get full. I still finish my food. Like that is like if that's an eating habit, that's the one I have. Like I have quite literally never left food on the table. I will finish other people's food. I'm like, that is so sweet that you guys think that I would get full and like stop eating. Or that you think that I just like would get full and not eat the rest of my food, or not even that. Like, what if I don't finish? I'm sorry, are you a little bitch? I'm sorry, you can't finish your plate of food? And that's like so not correct, you guys. That was like my parents. Like it was do or die. You're finishing that goddamn food, which I think about so often, like what I'm going to do with our kids, because I understand, like, I also want to teach the importance, like, yeah, grab the amount of food that you're going to eat. Like, I don't believe in wasting. I think it's horrible. I think people waste food. Like, it's just, you can just go to the grocery store and pick up new food, which you can, but like that's not correct in my opinion. So I do want to like teach my children to like finish their food, but I also don't want them to end up like me, because like I gorge myself. Like I'll be there and I've tried to get better because I'll eat leftovers, but it's still inside of me. Like I'll be so stuffed, but I'm like, I have to finish this. And it's just something so ingrained in me and it's so bad. So like to the people that ask that, I love that for you, that you don't have that fucking disorder in your brain where you have to finish your food. But I'm like, that is so precious that you guys have seen me. You know, I'm a thick bitch. Not thick. Okay, whoa, Brennan, you're getting carried away. But like, I don't know why I feel like I'm a giant, but I'm 5'9" and I'm like 150 pounds. I'm just solid. I've always been told that I'm solid. So I just feel like I'm like a presence. And I'm like, how cute that you guys think a bitch like me, okay, would not finish our food. So that was so sweet of you guys, but no, that's never happened. So to anybody that's like, oh, but what happens, you know, you eat least to best, but then, oh, also somebody said, then they have the best for leftovers. However, there was somebody that said they don't eat leftovers. They hate leftovers. And I'm like, see, I think it just really has a lot to do with the way you were raised, and it can go so many different ways. Like some people probably had parents that made them eat leftovers all the fucking time, or like just constantly had leftovers. So then it makes them repulsed by them. But for me, like wasting food was not an option. Like we did not throw a single, even smallest tiny amount of food away. Like my dad was just like, not that bitch. Like, nope, that was just like not even allowed. So like, I never even think about leftovers. Like, yeah, of course you're going to eat all of your food. So I think these things are just like so hardwired in us. But then there are other different eating habits that people talked about. And I'm like, what? For example, somebody said, I have to cut up all of my food before I eat. And I kind of understand this. Like if I have a steak, you know how people like cut, eat. I think that's like the proper way, you know, like there's like food etiquette. Actually, Carter had to take a course for his firm. Like they had that at one of their like retreats, which is so funny, but I get it. It's just like a part of like fucking high society or what the fuck ever. But I don't want to be working my entire meal. Like I don't want to constantly be freaking cutting my meat. So I will also cut up everything right away. So then I have bites just to make it more convenient. But I think that's like, I get it. But some people don't do that. So anywho, okay. I always eat my protein first because I used to get in trouble as a kid for not eating all of my protein. Again, like there are so many things that our parents, and I get it. Like as a parent, yeah, you need your child to eat protein, but like you just never know how that will manifest. And just like the tone, there's so many different things behind it on why it makes us like so crazy, but it makes perfect sense. But that's so it's just interesting. Maybe you guys don't find this interesting, but I do. Okay. Not an eating habit, but a drinking habit. I have to swish around all drinks in my mouth before I can swallow them. That's crazy. Like, oh, it's just so interesting. You just pick something up. Like when I was a kid, you guys, we ate fast food all the time. Single dad, you know the drill. Something that we used to always get was Wendy's because of its location. It was closest to the south side of town. So we went to Wendy's all of the time. And something about the Wendy's chicken nuggets, I would eat, like, you know how they have like a thicker side or a side with more surface area and then like the skinny sort of rim. I would chew off the breading on the nugget, the rim first, like the skinny. And then that way on each side, there were these two thick sides of the breading. I would eat the one side, I would eat the other, and then I would dunk the nugget. Just like now it was like a naked fucking chicken with no breading. I would dunk that in my ketchup and then eat it. And my dad doesn't like ketchup. So there were like certain condiments that like we didn't really have at home. So I didn't always have ketchup because Barrett didn't like it. Like, again, just these like random things, but they really do like come into fruition, or like they just manifest in weird ways. Okay, next one, which seems so childish, but I understand you can't mix your food. She said, no mixing of the foods, which they're not supposed to go together. Some are, but some aren't. And I stand behind you. I don't like care that much. Like my brother, when we were growing up, was like such a little bitch. Like if they touched, he wasn't eating it. And like the problem with me was like, let's say the macaroni and the beans touch, like there is a point where they touch. No, he's not eating any of it. It's like, okay, you could literally just take away that singular spot where they touched, and like the other foods have not touched, but nope, he wasn't eating the rest. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a little bitch. But I get it. Everybody, again, like I'm being mean, but like I totally understand. Who knows where they come from? It's not our choice. There are just certain things that just like you can or cannot do. Oh, okay, rainbow candy. Organized by color, obviously, but then she said you eat them methodically until there's an equal amount of each, so you get down to like 10 of each color, and then she said eat in the color of the rainbow one by one until you finish. Love that. Yes, you have to. You have to. Okay, this girl said, I'm 36 and I won't eat crust. I don't understand that. I've never grown up with that. Like, it's so funny. You'll go to a friend's house and like their mom will like cut off like the edges of bread. Or like I noticed that people wouldn't eat the crust of their pizza. Again, it goes back to the waste thing. I'm like, why the fuck would you waste that? Which is like now as an adult, I'm like, oh, you can like pick and choose what you eat. However, like that wasn't an option for me growing up. So like, it's just so hardwired. Okay, this girl said, I anxiously eat. So I plan out the next bite the entire time during like while she's eating. Okay, one bite, she's like planning out the next bite, which causes me to eat so fast. Totally get it. Totally get it. And I stand with you. Okay. Oh, two more. Okay. One girl said, she said, I can't eat the end of a fry where I hold it, which that is like so crazy. I could understand if you're like a germaphobe, maybe like I've just never heard anything like that. And another girl said, I wipe my hands on a napkin between each bite. So if I don't have a napkin, I can't eat. Like she has to wipe her hands on the napkin between every single bite. Which again is like crazy, but like that comes from somewhere, and like to each their own. We all have our little quirks, and I just love that. Okay, you guys, I've been blabbing already for so long. Book update. I finished The Women by Kristen Hanna, and I bawled my eyes out, and it was so good. I remember halfway through the book, she got back from Nam, and I was like, holy fuck, like there's still half of a book left. Like, what's gonna happen? I was not ready. Like, oh my gosh, just the roller coaster and like the PTSD and just like, oh my God, I loved it. I loved it so much. And I think it was like super accurate. Like everything that they talked about like happened in Nam. And also I was mentioning it to LaDonna, and she said that I don't know if it was her first or her second husband, but he went to Nam, and obviously Gordy was supposed to, but he already had two brothers over there, so he didn't go. But she said the only thing that husband Wayne had said about the Vietnam War, he never spoke of it when he got back, except eventually they ended up doing like a memorial situation, and LaDonna was there because her son went with him or whatever. And he had said, he was like, wow, it's like crazy that this many years later we're being like congratulated and like welcomed, and when I got back I was spit on, you know, when he got back. So like even that was real. And LaDonna was like, holy fuck, like, oh God, it's all so horrible. You guys, amazing book. So I just went to Half Price Books yesterday, and I gave them some of my books that I didn't love. I gave them We're Liars. I gave them the Billionaire series that I think it's called the Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. It was like fine, just not my favorite. And then the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, those two books. I just like I don't know. They didn't like speak to me. I enjoyed them at the time, but I was like, okay, have these. And then I got like $20 some back. So I picked up The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna and Magic Hour. So right now on Libby, I started First Lie Wins, which is like a mystery thriller by Ashley Elston. And then I'm going to do The Great Alone after. And I've heard wonderful things about it. Lastly, you guys, my product of the week, my eczema cream. Eczema. If you don't have eczema, it's honestly like not that bad. It's just so annoying. So I got it in my elbows, which is like a common place where I get it. And it's just itchy and red. So my eczema ointment has saved the day. Once the seasons change, I feel like every fall and, oh my gosh, Brenna, fall and spring. I think I just combined those. Spall. We can start calling it spall. fall and spring, like my eczema will flare up. So it's been in my elbows. So my eczema cream, I have this ointment that was given to me by a dermatologist. So it just like clears it up within a couple of days. But that's been the product of the week because I was searching my bathroom. I'm like, where is it? I need it because I won't be able to live without it. And that is all I have for updates. I really wanted to, you guys, do a John Deloney segment where I specifically talk about John Deloney videos that I've watched. As you know, he is my favorite. He is a psychologist and he takes call-ins. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm sorry. Is every single podcast just kind of like a train wreck? Probably, but I don't care. It's who I am. I try and edit it as little as possible. So I end up keeping in all of my little like stutters and things, which I hope you guys don't hate. If you do hate it, let me know because I can edit them out. However, John Deloney, I've been listening like while I was ironing my boyfriend's shirts the other day. It took me forever, you guys. I had to iron like 5 shirts, white shirts. So it's like on a lower temperature. It just took me forever. And I'm kind of a perfectionist, but John Deloney. Okay, I just want to talk about 2 of them. That's all I'll do this week because I need to get into the topic. Number 1, a guy called in. He was 50. He just got married to a 49-year-old woman who is a virgin. 49-year-old virgin. And I'm not here to judge. And this man was so kind. And he was just trying to ask John, like, how do I like psychologically, because now it's been so long for this woman, like they've been married 6 months and they still haven't had sex because she's so scared. And like psychologically, imagine how like stunted you are if you've never had sex, which is like not like something that somebody should be judged for. It just kind of happened to her. I think she said that she was really religious, or he said this, and then she like lost a parent. So while she was grieving, she went like headfirst into work. And then all of a sudden she's like 35 years old, you know, you like come up for air, and she hadn't had sex. And then like the longer it goes, the probably scarier it gets and like the more pressure. So then one day she's 49 getting married and had never had sex. But the man was so sweet, you guys. He was like so understanding and like, oh, it just makes me like I listen to John's episodes and some of them I'm like, oh, you guys should not be together. Like there's a ton that he does on like cheating and infidelity and like my husband's talking to girls online and like all of this bullshit where I'm like, next. He sucks. And honestly, John will tell him like it is. He's like, your boyfriend's a fucking loser. Well, he doesn't swear probably, but he'll like be blunt, which I love. Obviously, you guys know me. But that was crazy. And then the other one, you guys, that like really sticks out in my head is this guy called in. He's married, but he's been having like sex dreams about his mother-in-law. Okay. And John was like, do you like want her? Like, what's like going on? And he's like, no, but he's like, we see them all the time. They're very close to the in-laws. And he's like, it just makes it uncomfortable because like every other week I'm having like a sex dream about his wife's mom. And he also said that he brought it up to his wife and she was like totally like, no, I get it. Like she was understanding, which like it's completely out of his control. But like what woman, like if Carter came to me, I mean, he hasn't even met my mom, but if he said he was having sex dreams about my mom, like no matter what, you're going to feel fucking weird or like hurt. Like even though you know it's something they can't control, but apparently when she was younger, like her mom was like the MILF, you know, so she's like used to it. And John was like, first of all, your wife's like so cool for like not acting or reacting like crazy or like, you know, being upset and being so understanding. But like the man was just like, what can I do to stop this from happening? Like, he's like, I've never thought about her that way. But now when I see her, I think about the dream. So it just makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, that's crazy. That is crazy. Okay, that's all. Next week, we'll dive more into it, but I've already been talking for like 40 minutes and I want to get into the topic, which is sobriety, which is alcohol, which is drinking, and how fucking normal we have made drinking when it's like so bad. And I want to preface this by saying like, I don't want to shame anybody ever. And if you're like a person who drinks and it's so casual and you don't have a problem and you like it and you don't think that it's like hindering to your life, pop off. Like, I don't want to sit here because I don't judge anybody. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can do drugs. You can like, of course, like, are these things bad for us? Is alcohol bad for you? Yes. Like, that's not up for debate. So when I talk about these things, like, I'm just saying it as like a matter of fact way. It's not like I'm shaming you or judging you for like doing this thing because it's like the most normal thing in society ever. Like our society runs on drinking. Like everything is surrounded by it, or like every event is like catered towards drinking. You know what I mean? So I understand. And also like, I think people can do it in like a healthy way. Not that like we know drinking is unhealthy, but I mean like without, feeling bad about it and still being able to like live your best life, pop off. But I think that there are a lot of people who struggle with the idea of not wanting to, but are stuck in the society that we've created where you feel so weird if you don't. Like, I think a lot of people, I don't know how to, sober curious is what I would say. I was going to relate it to like people who are like bi curious, like questioning if they like girls or boys or both, it's kind of like that. Like, I think there are a lot of people that are sober curious. Like they know that they probably should, maybe they have a problem with drinking, or maybe they don't, but they just like don't feel like it's adding to their life, but they don't know how to stop. Like those are the people I'm talking to. So if you don't want to hear me be kind of like preachy and judgy, not that I'm trying to be judgy, but I understand how it might come across that way, you might want to click out of this episode. But I want to talk to the people who have been curious about it, or maybe sober themselves, or maybe do have a problem, and like that's really scary. And I can't super speak on that. I actually had a girl just comment to my Instagram story, and she was like, are you qualified to be talking about this stuff? And I was like, oh fuck, well, like no. However, I'm just talking about my experience and my thoughts and what I would do if I were you. So this is not like actual psychological advice. I hope none of you are like thinking I'm a therapist. This is just like a 27-year-old girl who's like gone through life just like you, who gives advice that I think is helpful. Okay, that is all. Let's begin. Okay, let's start from the top. And I don't have a lot to say about this, but like our upbringings and just kind of how alcohol was introduced to you. For example, I primarily lived with my father, who didn't really drink that much. Okay. And then I also would go to my mother's house, who at the age of 5 married an alcoholic. So I think there are a lot of different stories. For example, Carter was raised Mormon, so nobody in his family drinks. All of his family friends were Mormon, so he was never around alcohol. And I think, again, similar to the eating habits, I think it can all go different ways. I think you can have alcoholic parents and then follow right in the footsteps because that's what you know, and like it just happens. Or I think, for example, my brother is 30. He turns 30 next month. He has never had a sip of alcohol. And I think, we watched my mom and my stepdad become or be alcoholics. And to us, like that really turned us off of it, which again, addiction is like such a complex issue and like isn't at fault of the person. It happens. But I don't know if it's hereditary, but it's oftentimes like if you have an alcoholic parent or parents, that it happens to the child as well. Or even worse, like similar to LaDonna and Pam, for example, like you find a spouse similar to your parents. So like a lot of times I think women, if they had alcoholic parents or a dad, like they then marry an alcoholic, whether consciously, subconsciously. Like there are just things in life that happen and are common. And of course that doesn't always happen, but I think seeing my mom and my stepdad be the way that they were and drink like they did had a big impact on my choices as an adult not to drink. And like, especially now, I don't see myself ever drinking again. Like at this point on, in recent years, I haven't drank a lot. And then it just became less and less. And then every time I drink, I'm like, why did I drink? Because I felt that other people wanted me to, or it was offered to me and I just didn't say no. And like now, especially having a partner, and somebody asked, are you and your boyfriend 100% sober? And like, no, I could maybe see myself, like, let's say we were in like an exotic place or we were in Europe and there was like some sort of like drink or beer or wine that was like coffee flavored, something crazy. Like I might take a sip. It's not something that I'm like, I'm never doing it again. Like that though is the only scenario where I could see myself drinking again, is if it were something super crazy or like part of like an experience. However, would I see myself going to Napa on a wine tour? Like, I would love to like go see, but like, do I need to drink the wine? No. So like, I don't know. That's just like not something on my priority list, but potentially in that setting, like if Carter felt that we should do this and like it was a learning experience, maybe. So like, it's not a hard no. And for Carter, like, I'm trying to think, he was just at his work retreat. I don't think he drank. I don't even think I asked though. So I don't really know, but I don't think that he would have. He's kind of like me. Like, we just don't see any sort of benefit from it for our lives, for who we want to be. And you guys, this is so annoying of me because like a year ago, I wasn't even sure if I wanted kids. And now that I'm with Carter, I do. But a lot of things too, you guys, like decisions that I'm making, I not only think of like pregnant Brenna, but I think about number one, like what I want to raise my kids with, and also being healthy to be able to like experience things with my kids. Like, I feel as though when I was a child, my mom, like, she wasn't as active and like they were drinking and like I was playing with my brother a lot. But like my dad, on the other hand, you know, was playing with us all the time. We were throwing ball, like we were doing things, and he was like so capable and so energetic himself. Like we would play soccer with my dad. Like, I want to just like be the healthiest, best me, not only for my kids, but like for my old self. Like, your health is your wealth. Hi, Brenna's weekly fucking health is wealth report. But it just is the one thing, like your health is good until it's not. And like, if you don't have your health, you don't have nothing. So to me, like, I just want to be the healthiest, best version of myself as a, you know, pregnant woman for my child, like as a mom, as an old person. Like, I just want to live the biggest, healthiest, longest life. And to me, alcohol has no place in that, because really it's just horrible for your body. Like, that is not a questionable statement. That is a fact. Even if it's one drink, like it fucks with your hormones and your sleep and so many things. So those are my reasons. Well, there's a lot of reasons. Money. Okay, I don't want to be spending my money on alcohol. And I think that also played a part. When I was a freshman in college, I didn't drink. I went out every Friday and Saturday, you guys, and I didn't have a sip of alcohol. I drove my friends, which I thought was so great. I just wanted to be in control. But I also think at that time, I didn't have fucking money. I was paying my own like tuition and all of the things. So every penny that I was making, I was like, I'm not going to spend it on like alcohol for what? I just never saw. So like this, I'm just saying this to like give you an insight of my brain, because it's one thing to say like, I don't drink because my like parents, you know, my mom and my stepdad were alcoholics, but there are like so many moving factors. And I think it's different for everybody. And that's why I think also people automatically assume, holy shit, people automatically assume that if somebody's sober, that there was once a problem. Which somebody asked me, like, what do you do when people like think that you had an issue at one time and you didn't? And I'm like, I don't really care what people think or do not think about why I don't drink. Like, if they think that I used to have a problem, okay. You know, if they want to ask me, I can explain. But if they don't, like, I don't really care what they assume. Why would I? However, like, it's a bunch of moving parts. Like, you might be in a position right now, like if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're going out every weekend spending $15 on a drink at the bar, like that's just like irresponsible, I think, you know? And again, here I am judging, but like, you know what I mean? Or maybe you're like not in the best shape, you know, maybe you are trying to drop a few pounds. Like, yeah, get rid of the alcohol. Like, there are just so many things that it can play a factor in. So for some people, it might be, you know, they have addictive personalities, or at one time they were addicted to alcohol, or like were an alcoholic, so they stop. Or maybe at one point you were just trying to drop a few pounds and stopped, and then now you don't drink. Or maybe you're trying to save money, so then you stop drinking. Like, whatever the reason is fine, and do whatever the fuck you want to do. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there are so many moving parts, and let me just get into some of the questions, because I think it will open up different conversations. Number one, okay, what do you do when you feel like others are judging you because you aren't drinking? And I don't get this anymore at all, but in college, like I said, of course, my freshman year of college, everybody's drinking all of the time. It is not the normal to not drink. And number one, are they judging you or do you think they're judging you? Because I think a lot of times we're like, oh, people are going to judge me if I don't drink. People don't actually give a fuck. And if somebody is pressuring you to drink, of course, I got that question a million times. That is not your friend. And it has nothing to do with you. Because imagine yourself. Imagine you're out with a group of people and you're drinking. Okay, cool, great, fine, dandy. A bunch of you are drinking and one person is not. Would you sit there and like pressure that person to drink? I hope not. I hope your answer was no. Like, I cannot imagine myself in a situation seeing somebody not drink when I am and when my friends are, being like, why aren't you drinking? Like, you don't want to have fun? Like, who the fuck does that? That's weird. And that's a them issue. And I think a lot of times that stems from their insecurities and they want to feel okay because they're drinking. Like, I think deep in their subconscious, they are not proud that they are drinking or whatever the thing is for them. So they want to push that on you because a normal human being, like I always think, put yourself in that person's shoes. I would never, and I have never, like, why the fuck would I care if somebody is drinking or not? That has nothing to do with anything. And there are layers to it. Like, I think some people just do it because it's society. I think some people throw out phrases and questions because there are these common places in conversations where people just do and say things when I don't think deep down they really like mean it. Okay. And then there's people who are like, oh, you're not drinking? Like you're not going to be fun tonight? And they put this like weird connotation to it. And it's like, okay, I'm not having fun currently because you're pressuring me and making me feel like I'm not fun if I don't drink. But again, that's a them thing. Like if you would just shut the fuck up for 2 seconds, you wouldn't even know if I'm drinking or not. Like I can go out and have a good time. And I think that's why it never bothered me because I would go out and have a good time. And like, also, if you're one-on-one with a person, like I had a girlfriend in college who was like this stereotypical, like this could be you. You're very shy. You like use it to lubricate, right? They say, you know, liquid courage, and you feel like you're only fun when you drink, which I have a lot of thoughts on that. However, I would go out with this friend and every time she'd be like, you're not going to drink. Like, oh, so I'm just going to be drinking. And I'm like, either A, you genuinely think that I'm not fun to go out with when I'm not drinking, which if you feel that way, why are we going out? Like, why are we even friends? It's either that, which is fine, which is valid, and that can be real. Like, you might have a friend who is a fucking bump on a log if they don't drink. Like, that's like low key me. Like, no, I'm not that person. I was just thinking about this, how Carter and I have never been drunk together. We have drank together once. I say twice, but like the second time that we did, I had a sip or two of a certain drink. Oh my gosh, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, maybe I'm not. Okay. But on our second date, we had 2 glasses of wine, but it was at dinner. So like, I'm saying that Carter and I have never like gone to a bar and got drunk. We've never been at a wedding. Like me in those settings, you guys, I'm like balls to the walls. I'm dancing, I'm singing. Like I am that person. Like when I go out and when I'm at a wedding, drinking or not, Carter has never seen that side of me. Like I don't just like act, you know, like this, woo, like singing along to songs, like that's a certain environment. And yeah, anybody is like their most fun self in that environment. However, like that is just like not day to day. So if you feel like you're only fun, it depends on like how you're viewing that. Like I don't really care if I'm the most fun person. Like I don't need people to describe me. Like my best friend Natalie, she going around being like, oh my God, Brenna's so much fun. No, like that's just like not who I am. Can I be fun? Of course. And that's not like a negative thing. Like that's not a diss to say like she's not going around. That's not the first thing she would say about me. But like you're friends, you don't need to be like this loud, obnoxious, like outgoing person to be fun. Like your life. Oh, I always like go on to these rants and then I get like mumble jumbled. But like who gives a fuck if I'm fun, if people think I'm fun? Like I love my day-to-day life, and like that to me can be fun, sure, but like that is not my day-to-day life. Like I would rather enjoy my day-to-day life than like go out on the weekends so like people think that I'm fun. Like I would encourage you, if you feel that way, if you feel like you're not fun if you don't drink, because I got that question, like number one, who gives a fuck? But number two, Like, find the things that you get joy out of. Like, I enjoy going on walks. I, for example, last weekend went to my friend Natalie's house. We sat on her couch and just talked the whole time. Was it fun? No, like, that's not the word I would use, but it was like the best thing ever. Like, it's so great to just sit and catch up with your girlfriend. And I was so happy to see her. But like, why the fuck do we care about being fun? Does that make sense? Like, are you happy? Like, really, at the end of the day, that's the only thing I care about. And like, going out and drinking doesn't make me happy. Waking up hungover makes me actually pissed. Like, I hate wasting a day. And that, to me, when I drank in the past, or when I have drank, I'm like, oh my God, tomorrow I'm just going to be a fucking loser who sits in bed. And I just hate that version of myself. Like, I don't care if that's you, but for me, that's not fun. And then I'm sitting there and I'm regretting it. And there has never been a moment in my life where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have drank last night. Never. Like, again, it's going to be uncomfortable. For example, if you're trying to like quit drinking and you're just used to going out, yeah, it's like a very different lifestyle. Like, it was very lonely at a time for me when I was like figuring out that I didn't really enjoy that. But then on Friday and Saturday nights, I'm sitting at my apartment by myself watching Netflix, which in the moment, like, of course you can feel lonely or sad or what have you, but that made me actually like way happier than going out. And then it's like finding your people. If you're surrounded by people that have to drink when you don't want to, or the people that pressure you to drink, like, those are not your real friends. You know, if anybody is pressuring you to drink when you don't want to, that is not a real friend. And if that's what they need out of you, like, it's just so weird, because my friends would never. And back to what I was saying about being in college, like, none of my friends did that my freshman year. So I never really dealt with, of course, I would run into random people who didn't really know me. And if they knew that I wasn't drinking, they'd be like, why aren't you drinking? Which I'm like, I don't want to. I've always been a person who's like very firm and like, whatever I want to do, like, I want to do. I never really allow other people to dictate, because how the fuck am I going to let other people dictate what I'm doing? Because that's what happens. Like, if you are being peer pressured to drink by your friends, by your peers, like, at the end of the day, not that they made you because it was your choice, but like, you felt like they needed you to, like, why would you drinking affect them? It doesn't. It's not something like, I was thinking of an analogy. Let's say you and a friend wanted to go canoeing and there has to be 2 people to canoe. And if you didn't want to, your friend was like, why not? Like, that to me, I can understand if you need 2 people to do something and you're saying you don't want to, which is like totally unrelated. But when it comes to drinking, like, you don't need to physically be drinking, have a drink in your hand to participate in the activities that people do when drinking. You can still go to the bar and not drink. Like, them pressuring you, it is not a situation where you have to be doing that thing that would affect them. Like the canoe, like that I understand. That would affect them. But drinking does not. So it just like drives me insane when people are that way. And like, they're the ones who end up making it miserable. Like, if they want to keep going on and on and on about how you're not drinking, like, yeah, you're ruining the fun. Like, if you just shut the fuck up for 2 seconds, like, we could just go out and have a good time, but you're the one ruining it. So number one, okay, I just jumped around all over the place, but me, I just will never allow other people to make decisions for me. Like, that's what was happening. Like, in college, once I did start drinking, like, I felt for my friends, they wanted me to, but it's like, who the fuck cares what they want? Like, this is my life. And like, as I've dwindled on and no longer drank, I have created this like life that I love. I love my walks. I love my boring fucking life. Like, no, nobody's saying Brenna's fun, but I don't care. Like, that doesn't matter to me. And when I was meeting you guys, I thought about this with management companies prior, and like one management team like wanted me to make like more lifestyle content. And I said it about myself. I'm like, I'm super boring. Like, my life is not something that people want to see. Like Alex Earl, that bitch is doing something 24/7 and great for her. And I hope she's living her best life. That is not my life. And I actually don't really want that to be my life. Like, I couldn't live like that. But I'm not saying boring as it's like a bad word. Like, I just have like a very, simple, boring life, but like, I love it. So it's like, number one, define fun. And like, why do we have this desire to be fun? You know what I'm saying? And like, if you're only ever doing certain things so like people like you, if you feel that you need to go out and go to the bars and like girls night out or with guys, like you need to be this fun person so that a guy will date you, like number one, like that's the complete wrong idea and you'd be getting that person for the wrong reasons, you know? And I just think like ask yourself internally, like, why do you feel that way? I got the question that I feel like I'm no fun if I'm not drinking. And if you're like a shy, reserved person, at the end of the day, also it's a band-aid. Like if you just were to stop drinking, stop telling yourself the narrative that you're not fun if you don't drink. Yes, you can be, but like, yeah, you're going to have to break out of your shell, but like alcohol isn't really helping that. It's a band-aid where if you just quit drinking and like pushed yourself to be a little bit more outgoing and talk to people, like it's going to be uncomfortable, of course, but then you're going to get better at it. And also you're going to find your people. Like when people are drunk together, like, yeah, they're your friends, but like alcohol really helps people be quote unquote fun. Okay, you can be friends with anybody when you're like, woo, like going out drinking. You will really find your people when you're sober. Like getting to know somebody and like connecting on a deep level sober, like those are your people. Those are all of my friends and who I surround myself with. Like I don't feel the need to be drunk. Like these aren't going out friends. Like, and I think sometimes it can be hard to differentiate like who is a going out friend and who isn't. Like, would you connect with those people or that person or that boy if you weren't drinking? I don't know. And also if you're in a relationship and you feel like, for example, you can't bring things up to your partner if you're not drinking. I had a girlfriend, she's like, I have to drink because then I'm too scared to talk if I don't. It's like, again, it's a band-aid. Like rip the fucking band-aid off, quit drinking and like work on bringing things up. Like if you're constantly just using alcohol to like get you through social settings with your partner, like these things where you're like, oh, I'm just so shy or I just feel like I'm not fun, like stop doing it and just push yourself and you'll learn those behaviors and like how to start talking, how to bring up your feeling sober. And that is just way more beneficial to you. Anybody can like drink and then yeah, they have loose lips. Like that's what it does. But it's like, then the next day, number one, you're regretting everything you fucking said because you were too loose-lipped and it didn't really help. Like now you feel every single time you drink more and more to help you with the thing, you get worse and worse at doing it sober because you're like, oh, well, this last time I had to do it. And then you do it again. And then it's like, oh, you wake up the next day and you're like, oh my gosh, like I need alcohol. And the more you do it and rely on it, you just keep like needing it. And that kind of goes back to also like alcoholics and addiction. I think when you drink all of the time, you're normal. Like you're like, I'm this fun person when I'm drinking. So then you wake up the next day and now your normal is like below average. You're like viewing that. You're like, oh, I'm so lame or like this sucks. And it's so skewed because you're drunk the other times. Does that make sense? So like that's an inflated sense of like fun and woo and like party, but then it makes your reality seem like so horrible or just like worse. Does that make sense? So it's just like such a toxic cycle. And this is like why I understand how people get in this situation. And maybe you didn't mean to, like it just starts in college, that environment. And then before you know it, you're an adult and like you're still in that lifestyle. And number two, it's like so bad for you. Like it just fucks up your hormones and your sleep. And then you eat bad and you spend so much money because like you Uber and like, I don't know, just to who I am at my core, as you guys know, like drinking just like does not align with who I am. I hate spending money. I hate when my mental health is in the shitter because that's what alcohol does. I hate when I feel like shit. I hate when I eat shit. I just like feel like my relationships are not good. Like if me and Carter were getting drunk all the time, I feel like also so many relationship problems come from alcohol. Like two people can be perfect during the day and like during real normal life, and then they drink and like let's say he's a mean drunk and you get in fights because he's flirting with the girl at the bar, but it's like not, but you're interpreting it that way because you're drunk and everybody's drunk. Like it's such a bad environment and like it can tear two perfectly good people together. Like you could have such a good relationship sober, but because you guys choose to drink together and like it just creates issues out of thin air. Like me and Carter talk about that all the time. We're like, like, we literally have never had any issues. And I think a big part of that is because we've never been in that environment. Like, it just creates like weird animosity, and like people don't act like themselves. So you're getting in fights and you're just acting out of the norm. And that to me is not fun. And even with friends, like, let's say you go out with friends and you do something stupid or you say something dumb. It's just like, drinking is fun until it's not, until you getting anxiety, and then your mental health the next day is so bad. And it's like, nothing to me is worth that. Like, if you were to say a drug had all of these like negative effects that alcohol does, people would be like, don't do that drug. But for some reason, alcohol is like the norm, and like we've just deemed it okay in society. Like, if somebody were to use a drug like every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'd be like, whoa, that person like has a problem. But if somebody drinks Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's like, oh, like nobody even bats an eye. And like same thing goes for like when people, you know, why aren't you drinking? In no situation like drugs, like the person that's pressuring somebody to do the thing, you'd be like, whoa, that's fucking weird. But with alcohol, it's different. Or like somebody who chooses not to do it, like with drugs, like if somebody was like, I'm not, you know, I'm quitting, like even if it's like smoking marijuana, whatever, people are like, great. But with alcohol, it's like, oh, you have a problem? Like, what the fuck is your issue? It's like, why is that? It's just so odd. But I think it just takes a lot of courage, for sure. It takes courage to stop drinking or just to drink less. Like, you don't have to cut it cold turkey. Like, if you just realize maybe you drink a little more than you would like, cut it back. And I think that you'll slowly like cut it back more and more. But it just takes courage, and like you have to choose that, because at the end of the day, people will pressure you, random people, like whatever. Those people are pieces of shit in my opinion, but like it's going to happen. You know, people are going to judge you, whatever. Somebody asked like if, you know, well, people ask so many questions, but a recent scenario that I can think of is I went to an influencer event with Steve Madden, and I met this girl for the first time, and she's so great. And this is not a negative experience at all, but I asked for a mocktail and she just kind of like clocked it, because I think people do. And I think a lot of people who drink have this subconscious, like, people know it's not good for them. And that's just a fact. Whether like it is what it is, I think there are a lot of people who question, you know, like there's something back in our brains that's like, oh, you know, like I know this isn't good for me. And I got the mocktail and she just wanted to inquire. She was like, oh, don't you drink it? I was like, no. And again, it's not like this hard, like I'm sober. And she's like, what, you know, like what made you decide to stop drinking? You know, she was just asking like just general questions. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I've never really been a big drinker. I just like don't feel I don't know. Like, I really don't have like a strong answer. I just don't like it, you know, and I just don't think it's good for me. And she was like, oh. And so I think once you know in your mind, like you don't want to do it and you feel strong in that, just like, yeah, it's not good for me. I don't want to spend my money on it. Like the aftermath of it, you know, waking up the next day being hungover, like I just don't like that. Like if that's how you feel, when people ask, like, yeah, maybe at first, I'm sure back in the day, it might have been uncomfortable for me, but like the more you don't drink and you get strong in that decision, it gets easier. And it's just like, oh, because it just becomes normal. And like at the end of the day, also with anything in life, like people are going to judge you or they're not going to, but like people really don't spend that much time thinking about you. So like this little moment where somebody might be like, oh, you're not drinking, like to you, you're like, oh my gosh, like that's so scary. Like they're judging me. They really don't actually give a fuck. So like, don't let other people choose your life and like tell you what to do. Not that that's what it is, but kind of like when you give in to peer pressure in any form, you know, whether it's alcohol, whatever the thing is, I just like, I don't want to live my life for what other people think I should be doing or should not be doing. So once you like really say like, I'm not drinking anymore, or like I'm not drinking tonight, whatever that looks like for you, stay firm in that and like, cool. Like if there is literally somebody who is so bothered by that, that is a them issue. And I cannot stress that enough. Like you are not affecting them in the slightest. And again, that's why I say stand your ground. Like what a fucking loser. Like I'm not asking you, why are you drinking? I should be asking that. Like, why are you drinking? Why are you like taking something that's so bad for your health? And like, you're going to be hungover tomorrow. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? We don't fucking do that. So I don't know why it's the other way around, you know? So those are my thoughts on that. Let me make sure I got through all of these questions. I didn't even go through them, but I kind of did in my head. Do you guys think there's something wrong with me? Be honest. That's okay. Let me just go through verbatim some of these questions. Somebody said, do you explain to people how you don't drink? If they react strangely, how do you deal with that? I kind of just answered that, but like, no, I don't like explain. And typically people don't notice. Like, for example, at all of Carter's like work events, like when I get a little mocktail or even a Diet Coke, like nobody ever notices. And like, especially like real adults, like they get it. I feel like college is a weird era because everybody's drinking and it's the norm, and like people think you're weird if you're not. Like once you get a little bit older into like the adult scene, I feel like people don't give a shit because people are so much more who they are. I feel like as we all get older, we get a stronger sense of self. So like we don't care about other people and what they're doing. So nobody like of note and nobody that like I care about has ever judged me. It's always like the most random person who like has a problem or like I barely know. That's like, why aren't you drinking? You know, so I never like explain, like, who cares? And I feel like it's becoming more common to not drink and more normal to like get a mocktail. So like people don't care. And with mocktails, like carrying around a drink, I know that's a thing at like a social setting, at a wedding, like they make them similar to a drink. So a lot of people wouldn't even notice anyway. So it doesn't even need to be a conversation. So yeah. Oh, this was a question I wanted to answer. Somebody said, how do you cope with not drinking when that's all people do, even when you choose not to? I think your environment plays a big part. Like I think about North Dakota, and I'm not excusing all of the alcoholics in North Dakota, but there really isn't bumfuck to do. But again, I remind you, like going to a bar is really people just socializing in a place. What is different from you inviting your friends over? It's the same thing. It just doesn't have to involve alcohol. You can also go to the bar and not drink, but like it's not that fun. But how do you cope? Like just find your people and find your things. Like for example, my friend Natalie likes to drink. Her and her boyfriend drink. But like I said, last weekend, I went to her house in the middle of the day. So we like hung out, caught up, we chatted. That was it. Like you find your little pockets and like what works for you. Go to brunch, go to lunch, go grab dinner, go to a sporting event. Like there are so many things to do. You don't have to drink, but it just takes like, again, getting sure of yourself. Cause I know people really give in to like, well, everybody drinks, but it's like, okay, but you're not everybody. Who gives a fuck? There are people who choose not to, but there's also like people can drink, but you can find things to do with them that don't revolve around drinking. Like even going to lunch, again, they could grab a drink if they want, but you don't have to, or you don't drink, or like you hang out in the morning, you know? I don't know. I would just stay firm in your choice to not drink and you'll figure it out, and just like keep finding the things that you like and the people that you enjoy, and like the right people will find you. I also think like once you choose to not drink, somebody asked, oh, is it normal? Let me find it. Is it normal for your friends to not want to be friends with you because you don't like drinking or going out? Is it normal? I think it's so fucking lame, but it will deter people from like being your friend for the wrong reasons. Like if they literally don't want to be your friend because you don't go out, like it just shows how much going out and drinking means to them. And if that's just a different stage of life that you're in, like I feel like it's that as well. It's like stages of life. Like they're in that and you're not. Okay, like you're not meshing. I think that's crazy. Like a real friend would never stop being friends with you because you don't drink. So it's like those people are shitty. They're just in a different stage of life. They just want going out friends. That's fine. But like still be you. Like what? You're going to go out and drink even though you don't want to just to be friends with these girls? That is dumb to me. Just go and find other people. Like there are so many people that fit your life and your lifestyle. So like, yeah, forget them. Somebody else asked, what's your fun go-to drink? And basically a Diet Coke or a Coke Zero. Like I'm a pop girly, I guess. However, if there are mocktails, I'll grab whatever sounds good. Honestly, you guys, I didn't spend a lot of my time drinking even when I did drink a little bit. So I didn't have like a drink that I liked. Honestly, I kind of fucking hated how it tasted. Like nothing I ever had I liked. So there's not really a drink that I go to. And it's also why I don't miss drinking or craving it, or why I don't crave it, because I never really liked it in the first place. There's not like, oh, I miss like a vodka soda. What? No, you know what I mean? So I'm just like a Coke or a Diet Coke girly. But if there are mocktails, like a fruity little something that doesn't have alcohol, sign me up. Oh, I got questions on number one. Somebody said dating someone who's trying to get sober. I love that so much because I feel like for men, it's even more in your face. Like everything having to do with men things is drinking and beer. So I really hats off to men becoming sober. not that it's more courageous, but I do think it's like just different because men are just like also assholes to one another. So I imagine it's so much harder. Like for girls, like if you were going to your best friend saying you're going to quit drinking, girls are so much more like empathetic and they're like, yes, like love that for you, supportive. Like men don't like talk like that. So I feel like, you know, if a man was trying to go sober, like his friends would be like, okay, you fucking loser. You know what I mean? However, or she just said dating someone who's trying to go sober, just support them the best that you can and know that it's such like an honorable thing. And like your relationship is only going to be better because of it. Like relationships only get better the less you drink. Like I just think drinking adds murky waters. Like I just think that's a fair statement to say, you know, again, not judging people who drink with their partners, but you will understand. And like, you know, try and be there the best you can. If he had a problem at one time, like if he was an alcoholic, I would say don't bring alcohol around him. Obviously, don't bring him into those settings. You probably know this. If it's just something like he just doesn't want to drink anymore, just like support him in that. Like, of course, if you want to go out with your girlfriends and you still drink, do that. But like, you know, I just be a supportive queen. That's all I have. Somebody else asked, what do you do if your boyfriend drinks and likes going out, but you don't? And I feel like this happens a lot. Like boys just love like going out with the boys, which girls do too. But I feel like this is a common thing. This was my whole entire life before Carter. Like I feel like my boyfriends like wanted to go out. My college boyfriend would love to go to his friend's house that they all went to high school, and it was like a fucking high school reunion every time. And I didn't like drinking then even. So it was like drinking on top of like them fucking telling every same story about high school. But we just found like, of course, if it's cutting into your time, like if he literally goes out every Friday and Saturday and leaves no time for you, I would evaluate like, does he care about you? But if it's like he, you know, you settle on, he likes going out on Fridays, you guys have Saturdays, like maybe every other Friday you go out with him if you want to, or if like he's okay and you're okay with staying at home and he just goes out Friday with his friends, do that. Like it's just all about communicating and what works best for you. I would try not to harbor bad feelings because I did that. Like I would hate when my partners went out because I just hated it so much and it just didn't align with who I was. Looking back now, it's like those were the wrong people. But if it's like just, you know, normal, for example, like Carter hangs out with his friends and he goes and has like poker nights or whatever. He doesn't drink, but I don't like despise him going, obviously. So if it's like this thing where it's like a neutral ground and you're like, I don't care that you do it, I just don't want to, just find what works for you too. Okay. And then somebody left a comment and she said, AA was so helpful for me to clearly see how habitual drinking is unhealthily normalized. Oh my God, I'm sure. I can't even imagine AA like... It's everywhere. Branding, sporting events, bars, like it's the only thing. Happy hours, like every single thing. Carter was just telling me the other day that attorneys are like the number one profession of like alcoholics. Like I think the highest percentage of an occupation that has alcoholics. And I'm like, oh, it's just so bad. And it's not these people's fault. Like I think about my mom, for example, and this is like another side of the coin. Like when she was with my dad, she didn't really drink because they didn't drink, but then she married an alcoholic and now she is. And like that just goes back to why I think choosing your life partner is a huge deal in and of itself, the biggest decision you'll ever make. But like also why it's so important, like in these dating stages, to like know what's healthy and what's not, and what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, because it can quickly turn into a bad thing. And like if you're in a spot right now, which I feel for you, if you're like, oh, I just drink all the time, like a glass of wine every single night, at the end of the day, you're like, whether that's a problem or not, that's not for me to analyze. But if you feel like you could, you know, let's say your mom's an alcoholic and you feel like you could, you know, fall into that, I feel for you so badly. But it's good that you're aware of it. And I would just, again, like choosing your partner, like obviously I would not choose a partner who also drinks a fuck ton, because it just can get scary really quickly and so sad. And like drug addiction, alcohol addiction. This was in the book, The Women by Kristen Hanna. There was like a little portion on drug addiction, and people talk about it, but I don't think we realize how not normal, but like how common it is. And it's so sad because like once you're in it, like my mom, for example, like you're in it and it's just like, any way that I can help minimize and help people from getting to that point is what I'm going to do. So like if people want to shame me, I used to get this comment when like 2 videos I made about me and Carter being sober, you know, people would comment and like her whole personality trait is being sober, which I know is like them projecting, but it's like, I know it can be a little judgy, a little preachy, but if I can help anybody not fall into that, I will. Like I just truly, again, here's Brenna doing her weekly preach. I want you guys to be the healthiest and the happiest that you can be. And so that's what I'm just like trying to spread my knowledge on and just like talk about. And again, like nothing's right, nothing's wrong. All of my advice could be wrong, but just like the conversation. And I think it's good to hear people talk about it. I watched Jaclyn Hill recently. If you don't know who Jaclyn Hill is, she's like an OG YouTube beauty guru. She's the best. Like I just love her. And she talked about her own like alcoholism, and then her ex-husband died of drug addiction. And it's just like so powerful. And I think a lot of people, you know, probably do have family members or somebody close to them, but it's a weird thing to talk about. It's hard to talk about. You know, in this episode, I've talked the most about my mom that I ever have, and I need to like reel it in because I would hate for her to ever get her feelings hurt. But it's just like, again, I don't mean it to be like obviously shaming, but I just think it's knowledge is power. And I want you guys to like obviously feel free to talk about these things within your own friendships, your families, because it's important and it's our lives. Like hee ha ha, drinking, going out. Like some people, you know, like to be like, why do people talk about sobriety? And like they make this weird negative connotation to it, but it's like, because there is a clear problem and there are alcoholics out there and people have ruined their life over this. Like, yeah, it's all ha ha going out with the girls until it's not, you know? And again, not everybody takes it there, but it happens, I think, easier than people realize. And that's just that. Okay, you guys, I'm going to stop because I could go on and on and on. This is a little bit of a longer episode. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for listening. And next week's episode will be back to a lighthearted, fun, whatever you want it to be, but you're the best. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys next week. Okay, bye guys.